Speaking of money, Google was fined $5 billion by the European Union. Tell me about what's going on with that. Is it from the Google Play Store or what's going on there?
So this one's actually been in the works in the courts in the European Union for quite some time. I remember reading about it, I'd say maybe even 2 years ago. So here's the argument that the European Union says. 80% of the world's smartphones are on Android. And that is a huge market. And every single one of these Android phones comes with preloaded Google apps. And that's actually by design, because Android, or should I say Google, says we, developers of phones, we will give you our software for free. But in order for you to get it for free, you have to use our apps, such as Google Search, and it comes with Chrome. And by the way, Photos, Maps, and anybody who has that phone or buys the phone, they can delete and put other apps as they so choose. So it's not like they're forcing the end user to use their apps, but they come preloaded. So what the EU said is, well, this is unfair. If 80% of the phones in Europe come with your apps preloaded, that's not allowing innovation and allowing smaller companies the opportunity to have their day in the sun. Now, you could argue that the reason why Android apps are so huge, like YouTube, how many millions, if not billions, of people use YouTube? You need that economies of scale to make it worthwhile. Same with your ad revenue. So we talked about this in the past. So it can be really hard for third-party apps to be able to take on Android. So here's what's interesting. So Google shot back and they said, okay, you hit us with $5 billion and we understand what you're saying. So now what we're going to do is any Android phone that is going to be sold in the European Union will have to pay a licensing fee.
Oh.
So the producer of the phone, whether it be Huawei, Xiaomi, Samsung, the manufacturer of the phone will have to pay a licensing fee for every single one of the phones that go to the EU. And that sounds like Google's kind of being a little bit snarky, saying, well, if you're not going to use the whole reason why we create Android to be free in the first place, then you got to pay us for it. And that actually makes sense to me. And actually, this is exactly what the European Union wanted. They wanted the smartphone manufacturers to be incentivized to innovate and to create competitors. So what do you think, Dan? Do you think this is going to work? Or do you think people are just going to sideload the Play Store? Because that's a Google app. These phones won't even come with the Play Store. So,
well, here's what I'm hoping. Samsung's working on Tizen, their own phone operating system. I'm hoping that, they'll start to innovate that. But the problem that we have, like you were talking about before, is that the Google Play Store needs to be a central place for everyone to get their apps. If you start segregating it all, it's going to be almost impossible to find the apps you want. And especially as an app developer, it's so annoying to release it for the Google Play Store and for Apple iTunes and for all the different things. And if Samsung makes their own store and if OnePlus makes their own store, it's going to get really complicated. But it could drive innovation. And, with all capitalism, the fastest and the strongest wins. And so eventually it's going to come out as one company's going to have it all anyways. So it's kind of a circle.
This kind of reminds me of another article that we researched but never did. And it's all about how there's so much competition in the streaming world. So competition with Netflix. Disney now is coming out with their own movie and TV app. And you've got
HBO Go.
Amazon Prime, right? Also,
yes, has the Star Trek ones.
Yeah. So what it's doing is, because there's so much competition, people are starting to go to BitTorrent again. And in fact, when Netflix got big, people stopped torrenting. I don't want to have any admission on any
Yeah, I've
YouTube.
never seen you torrent before, Matt.
No.
Not at your house.
but I definitely would have been less likely to torrent because everything I needed was on Netflix. But now I can't go get Star Trek on Netflix. I can get the old stuff, but I can't get the new stuff. And people who want to watch Games of Thrones has to go to HBO, and people who want Men in the High Tower have to go to Amazon Prime. So they have all this specialized content, and what it's doing is it's pushing people back to piracy. So it's kind of the same thing with trying to create these new operating systems. Is the world better off with more operating systems in the mobile device sphere, or are we better off with a few really good choices? And then is it the same thing with streaming our television and movies? Are we better off with 2 or 3 giants, or are we better off with this smorgasbord that's going to cost us the same as having cable in the first place if we want to watch it all?
Well, it's frustrating because of the money, right? I mean, obviously, I want there to only be one store, but that would mean only one company would get all of the money, and it would be impossible to break into that monopoly. And so if you're asking what's best for the consumer, one store is the best. If you're asking what's best for all of us, it's several stores. Or else it'll just be impossible in the future for anyone to break in.